how I said everything was unintentional. It just happened by the by. I found this this band by, like a sign up in a laundromat, for heaven's sakes. I had no intention of playing bands. It's purely by accident. It's literally how that started. And yeah, the trumpet player was very nice. He's a very nice guy. He's an older guy. He's from Azerbaijan. Beautiful musician. And he learned actually lots of Cuban music from the Buena Vista Social Club guys, because at the time he was in Azerbaijan, that was still Soviet Union. So they had cultural interchange between Cuba and Azerbaijan. So he learned lots of stuff from these guys. And he's a fantastic jazz musician. And he showed me how to transcribe solos.
Yeah.
And he showed me also a few things, just some basics.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's always good when there's older musicians who tell you the ropes what to do.
Yeah.
And I actually had this even when I was a student in school doing some classical music. I had some older guys who, they're not too easy on you, like they criticize you, but that's good. You need that. You need people to tell you what to do. You don't need people to tell you how amazing you are, because then you never go forward.
Yeah.
It was good. And it's the same thing. He gave me very good ideas how to transcribe. I did a post recently of a Charlie Parker solo I transcribed in, like, when was it, 2000, 2001?
Yeah.
And that was from him, because he showed me the ropes.
Hey, what when you say showed you how to transcribe, could you elaborate?
Yeah, of course. So, for example, when there's a book, I think, that has all the notes written down with the rhythms and the times, and there's time signature, phrasing, I don't think this is very useful to learn solos if you're a classical musician, because
book.
Well, because you're going to play like a classical musician.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I mean, I had the luck to have good ears too, and instinctive feelings and natural abilities. Okay. But separate to this, anyone can hear a song on the radio and repeat it when they hear it. Sorry, this is my computer. They can hear it and they can repeat it. So what he told me to do, and it's really very good, is you simply write the note heads down of a transcription. I mean, you can also use your ear to learn solos. I can do this too. But when you have something that's really, pardon me, complicated, like like a Charlie Parker solo, or something from Eric Dolphy, or I don't know, like even Miles or Django Grappelli, and you write down just the note heads.
Yeah.
Only the notes, no rhythms,
rhythm.
nothing.
Okay.
And then you sit there and you play along with the recording, and you pick up the language, because there's also a language in all this music. And I also had my own ways of learning stuff. So another thing I'd do is I'd always play along with the recording, so I didn't hear myself above the recording. It's not just myself. I actually tried to absorb the sound of the musicians I was transcribing. So I'd pick up the sound, because I have ears too. Like, I pick up the sounds and the feelings of these musicians, and it's very, very enjoyable way of learning music. Extremely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Basically.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I that's not a way that I've done it. Like writing it as you go. But I guess it makes it so you're less having to struggle, because like taking down a solo is difficult for loads of things. You're having to exercise your ear, and you're also having to exercise your musical memory and everything at once. And I guess does that sort of takes away the memory side of it, so you can really focus on the music itself.
Well, the thing is, it's like with everything. You need to cut out the distractions.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ticket. Is you need to cut out distractions. I see it for years with musicians. Like, you can see their brains ticking.
Yeah.
You literally see it. I see it all the time, especially violin player. The amount of psychosis with classical training or with violin playing, I get it from 1,000 miles away. I saw it when I was 8 or 7, whatever it was, like seeing other students, like, oh my God, it's like robots playing the same classical pieces. I do not want to be this.
Yeah.
It's in the training that's too much focus on solo playing and not enough on the ensemble playing and music.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's like this worldwide, unfortunately. But it's not that it has to stay like this. And the thing is, when you transcribe, for example, just the note heads, the great thing is that your ears work out what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard, of course, if you can do it just by ear and learn lots of solos. But the problem is that not everyone can do this, and also when it's really fast, you're going to miss things.
Yeah.
When you write down the notes, your brain and your ears, they work out the rest.
Yeah.
You work it out. You work it
Yeah.
out somehow.
Yeah. No,
You
it makes
do.
sense. Totally makes sense. Yeah, cool. So that was like sounds like that was like your first foray into like real study of of specifically jazz,
Yes, it was.
and that was with this trumpet player, older musician.
Yep.
Was that and you were playing in a band with this guy?
Yes,
Well, that's great. So you were learning with whilst also performing.
exactly.
Um, what was your sort of next step musically? What did you do after that? What was happening?
Well, it was I went through quite a lot of trauma because in 2001 my father passed away.
Right.
I left this band, and yeah, I mean he'd been sick for very many years. Like he was really really sick. That was like the whole time was like also lots of crisis going on in family for a long while. And it was quite a few years that I was a bit lost, as you can
Yeah.
imagine. Just fell into other projects. I fell into a project with a great singer, a friend of mine named Nadia Golsky, who's Balkan music, and this I have natural leanings to too,
Yeah.
of course, because same thing to do with family upbringing. And yeah, there's a few projects I fell into, and in 2002, Lulo Reinhardt is a guitar player I played with for very many years,
Yeah.
based in Koblenz or near Koblenz. He was in Sydney, and what happened is that a man who had brought him out to do a pop record had befriended the family of this singer Nadia Golsky, who I was in a band with doing this
Yeah.
Balkan music, and he was invited to play at a very small gallery run by by her mother. And this guy said to me, "Yes, come meet Lulo Reinhardt," and I was like, "Okay." To me, the name Reinhardt, quite frankly, didn't make any difference to me. I was more happy that, quite frankly, I was a gypsy guy because I grew up with some of his music and there's some
Yeah.
sort of thing. I don't know which side of the family, but we're Jewish, but there is some sort of thing from one side or the other. And I was happy to go and say hello. And so it was sort of a bit surprising. This guy with long hair playing a bossa nova in this small gallery in Paddington in Sydney. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Can I say that on your podcast?
Yeah. I
All
don't think
right.
we got many. I don't think we
Excuse
got
me,
many kids.
listeners. Huh?
I don't think we got many kid listeners. And if
Okay.
they
What's that?
do, and I said this before, if we do have any younger listeners, they're gonna have to get used to these words if they're gonna start playing jazz. So
That's the one. Beautiful. Yes, mate. You tell it like it is. But yeah, like it was so abstract, far out. We made friends straight away. Basically, it was just, hey, how are you? When we played a song, total relax, whatever, and we came and played a song, and then my memory's a bit hazy. But the next day we went and played on a boat for some rich German dude.
yeah.
It's like a cliche. This guy. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I can't remember his name even, but boy, it's like really like you can imagine Helga the Horrible mixed with some German dude like ho 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 on some boat in Sydney Harbour, and I don't know. Then there's a Brazilian singer, Gianni. We had a really nice time. We got really drunk, and then we're on this beach just jamming, and it's just beautiful.
yeah.
It was just super lovely, fun, spontaneous, great vibe, everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, he left, and like it was such a nice vibe. And he came the next year. He came back. I don't know how the hell he came back, and I had no idea that he was back. And we saw each other for one day. I said, "Oh man, what the hell? This
Yeah.
is terrible. Nice to see you, brother. What the hell? This is 2003. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no Facebook, Skype, the YouTube.
Yeah.
There's none of this. It's another era, you know." And so I said, "Well, why not come to Koblenz? Come visit me."
Yeah.
And I've been to Germany only one time. I'd been in 2001 with a youth orchestra to Holland. It was in Sydney. I was in no Australian Youth Orchestra. So that was quite amazing classical experience. And I'd been to Berlin one time, and that was my experience of coming to Germany. And it was actually several months after my father passed away too. So it was a crazy time when I was
Yeah.
on this youth orchestra tour. So I didn't know Germany. It's like, come to Germany, all right. And I was at that time also playing in a band it's also hilarious. We're playing in a bookshop in Bondi
Uh-huh.
behind a couch. This band I was playing in, and lots of rich people would come there. So we're doing lots of functions, lots of private gigs, like
Yeah.
piles of these, like rich people's houses and weddings and bar mitzvahs and blah blah blah. And in 2004, for the first time in my life, I had the opportunity to have a credit card.
All right.
And literally, the moment I had the credit card, the moment I went straight to student travel direct,
Huh.
put $50
Yeah.
on, like on a ticket, and I went, well, you know what? I'll go to this festival I've heard of, Samoa, because that was like a computer you could look up stuff.
Yeah.
I found La Cucumber in London.
Yeah.
I wrote to Lulo and said, hey man, how about I come to Koblenz,
Yeah.
just like this?
Yeah.
And I had no idea about Samoa, really, no clue. Sylvia Rushbrook, I contacted, just I think I just some sort of credit, some sort of phone credit at the
Yeah.
time. One of these cards with numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of these weird cards.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember how I did it. It was some weird way. And she suggested to come to Summerall. So that's how I ended up coming to Summerall all these years.
Yeah.
And I went to Koblenz really just to say hello. That was all my plan was, nothing more.
Yeah.
And I had no clue that there was a festival that day, Django's Airborne, and Szolnok Reinhardt was there. And
Oh
to
wow.
explain, Lulo and all the Reinhardts from this region, they're basically from the family of Szolnok Reinhardt. That's no small thing. It's a really serious tradition. Um, and Szolnok was there, and I met him, and he wanted to buy my violin. And he got up on the stage and sang and played. It was absolutely beautiful. And basically that entire family adopted me from day one.
Yeah.
And it's something I never forgot ever to this day. And so over the years, the next year, I was still playing this private function band and still playing with the same musicians. And, like by this stage, I was already, like I could play some jazz and
Yeah.
was doing some of my own stuff in a trio and, like working musician,
Yeah.
doing gigs, doing recordings, doing sessions, doing anything, any and every job possible
Yeah.
to make money. Anything. Just, yep, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You want me to come? Yep. Okay. How much? Yep, I'm there. Like this, just total hide gun sort of dude, and sometimes doing my own stuff. In 2005, I was umming and ahhing whether I could possibly come back or not. It's really like I had to work actually I'd done some theatre work to pay back my debts from the last trip, and I went, oh fuck it, I just go. And so I went back, and that time was crazy. I had like $8,000 in credit in debt, and I had to do 4 months of theatre work to pay it back.
Yeah.
I managed to pay it back. It was a miracle. This friend of mine who does a lot of composing for big theatre companies. He brought me into a good production.
Yeah.
It's on the road doing that. And basically, that's sort of along the lines of how things have happened. Like as I was going back and forth to Europe and spending a lot of time in Koblenz, like I ended up in Lulo's band and playing a lot with him.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time at his place. We became very close friends, and I'm very, very close to his family. It
Yeah.
remains so, even though I'm here in Berlin. And there's a few projects from even back before I started going to Europe, such as Asthmatics, which is very progressive electronic music mixed with some hip hop and Jewish music and jazz and free improv, everything we feel like. That still continues, and that's one of my favorite projects. And my leanings are very modern, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There's some free improv often in my music, but that's maybe sometimes where there's some confusion in gypsy swing when I play. People don't realize I have a free improv influence often, because I did a lot of free improv gigs too over the years.
Yeah.
But not free improv. There's free improv where you just go, what is this? And there's free improv that's quite lovely, ambient, esoteric stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can also have a bit of a jazz influence sometimes, be still free and very, very nice,
Yeah.
But yeah, just basically working musician stuff, and fell into these bands and into these projects a lot of the time, and learning off older musicians. That's pretty much how it's been until the last few years, when it's become more me taking control of what I want to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I always, you've had like, I always see all your albums have always had a theme. That's what I've noticed. Like
Yes.
that I've seen. You've got the Samuro. Is that what is it called? Samuro.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was I really like that. I like the idea of these themed albums because
Mm.
so often you hear stuff like jazz or whatever, yeah, jazz, uh, and everything's there's no like the compositions are just sort of composed and then thought about then the theme's sort of thought of after. But it
Mm.
feels like every time I hear all your recordings, there's a theme. How did the how did yeah talk? It'd be cool if you could talk about Samuro and that inspiration on you, how
Sure.
that's inspired you
Sure.
throughout the years.
Well, I mean, that's also sorry for all these crazy stories. It's really endless. I mean, I did make something with all these stories because it's like you could write books about this and make
Yeah.
cartoons about it. It's so funny. But in 2010, because I got a sponsorship, but that was again like I had never planned. I did a private function in Sydney. I have
Yeah.
to explain this to your listeners. I have to explain how this came about with this trilogy of 3 CDs, Souvenirs, Koblenz, and Samaro.
That's it.
I had in mind to do actually something in like my own project with original compositions. I wasn't sure what to do. And in 2010, I did this private function as I was doing working musician, coming back and forth to Europe for 2, 3 months. You can imagine I have to make a lot of money to do this.
Yeah.
You have to work very hard, and really. And I was doing this private function, a classic private function. This so funny. This lady, she said, "Daniel, I want you to bring a gypsy band to my function." I was like, okay, no problem. And it's called Cuisine Now. It's the most
Yeah.
pretentious name ever. I hope she's not listening, but I mean, she's a lovely lady, but what the hell? And I was like, okay, yes, sure, lovely, fine, yes.
She's
And
probably
booked
not
some
listening,
musicians.
man.
You know, well, you know what I mean. And so, like, I invited some musician friends of mine, an old Russian Jewish saxophone player, Eddie Bronson, who I adore, and guitar player, and
Yeah.
bass player, and accordion player, etc. We were playing, and it was like all these classic massive plates with tiny portions of food. The classic expensive food thing. I mean, sometimes I guess it's nice, but it makes not much sense to me. And the guitarist got sick from the food, and no one was paying attention to the music by the time we got up because it's
Yeah.
late. They were drunk, they were tired, all the corporate people,
Sure.
except for 2 tables at the front. And there was this guy, I can never forget it, just shouting and clapping and whooping this lady dancing on the table. I was going, what is going on?
Yeah.
And it turned out that this guy became a good friend. It's become a good friend. Is the chief of BNP Paribas, which is this French bank.
Ah.
He asked me to do an album tribute to Django Reinhardt because he's a jazz fan and a
Yeah.
Django fan. So I had the opportunity because otherwise, quite frankly, I wouldn't have had any money to do this. And
Sure.
it was very, very lucky. I mean, as it was, I was just working my ass off to make money to be able to come back and forth to Europe and not be in atrocious debt.
Mhm.
And basically, that was the first. I made this album, Souvenirs, and I thought, I don't want to just do the same everyone does. And I love many compositions from Django. And he specifically asked for minor swing and nuage in some compositions. So, of course, because he was helping me out, I did that. But then I did a few things like Nymphaeus, and I did Bolero, this Bolero from Django, and a few other things that are a bit more unusual that you don't hear as much. So it's
Mhm.
all compositions basically from Django.
Yeah.
There's some discussion whether it was from Joseph Reinhardt or from Grappelli. In the end, it's just leave it as Django. It's fine. But the point is the sonority of what he composed and this music is clear. The playing on the general album, it's okay. I mean, it's very nice. It's very sweet. It's not so virtuosic always, but it's very interesting with different how to say, different textures and different colors within the album, and chops and changes, lineups, there's some strings and all sorts of stuff. And one thing I did, and I've done this on every album, is I did a field recording at the end.
Yeah.
I'll get to Summer and I'll get to my whole thing. But what I did, but the reason why it's got a field recording is because it's recorded in Australia. That's the
Uh-huh.
theme. Is that this came about because randomly I played at a private function. This guy gave me this amazing opportunity to record this album I booked the same musicians who I'd been on the gig with on principle because they were there. He saw me with them.
Yeah.
I didn't want to book other musicians. I could have booked, the best musicians, but why? Like book the musicians who I'd booked. This is nice. And I got a guy also from Melbourne to come, Peter Baylor, to come and play with us. It was nice. And I booked some other people, like some other people, like some string player friends. And I can't list all the names because it gets too crazy, So you can look up the albums and see the names. Everything is listed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this field recording is hilarious because it was an experiment done by the other guitar player, Nigel Date. He's a brother of Ian Date, who lives in Sydney. With
I know that name.
Nigel is the Date brother. You know Ian Date?
I think I know that name.
Ian is we'll talk about him with the Corblent album because Ian is a legend, really, in terms of jazz. The knowledge of jazz harmony is amazing. But anyway, the brother did this recording with some hand recorder or something, and we were out in the hills somewhere outside of Sydney. And when you listen back to the recording, it had the sound of cicadas, like really loud cicadas. And so he had some plugins with an old version of GarageBand. He lost the settings ages ago, and it sounded exactly like a Django and Grappelli recording. And so that was Souvenirs, the piece. That's what it was. It's a field recording. So I plonked that at the back of the studio recordings I did, called the album Souvenirs, and has the sound of Australian outback somehow because recording Australian. That's first album. Mm-hmm. And so you can see what I'm getting to is like with Corblens, that's quite deep. That was all my original compositions. I recorded that again with musicians from Australia to showcase how good musicians are there. That was with Ian, who's the sort of person who sees a melody and harmonizes the melody. You actually can find the actual harmonies that suit the melody. So it's beautiful harmonies. My melody, I have this stuff inside, but I can't always articulate harmony so well because I play by ear. I can't always read chord charts even. I'm an ear player. Mm-hmm. And that again, that album is original compositions. That's to do with this, a few things that basically chases the